BHS, Business Honoring Spirituality. And this morning we had an amazing speaker come to us and a webinar.
Great morning here at BHS, and I intend to be back soon.
Good morning and welcome to BHS. We've got an incredible program prepared for you today. And we start things out a little differently here. And I just wanted to explain that with my coffee. I hope you have your coffee. But the members of this group use this symbol to demonstrate how spirit works in their business. The top is the creative inspiration that comes from that spiritual gift that's been given to all of us. The middle is the intention or the manifestation. And the bottom is the law. That's the soil. You know, if you plant a seed and you water it, that seed is going to grow. And so I thought I'd just take a minute to share my coffee with you and welcome in our licensed prayer practitioner, Dee Rockwell.
Morning, Anthony. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Thanks for praying us in this morning. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yes. All right. Well, find your chairs. Get cozy, friends. We're just going to come together and just take in a deep breath, connecting to your body, connecting to your chair, and leave all other thoughts and activities behind as we dive into this morning's topic. We open our hearts and open our minds to all of the great joys that we can have together, learning, releasing any worry or anything that is unlike love. We just come together now, fully present, and allow for the messages of the day and the connections that we make on the call after this part of the program. Allow for those connections to happen naturally, abundantly, for this is the truth of us all, I know, and I know that this is true for each person that I meet and see, just as it is true for me. And I simply release these words and this intention into the law, knowing that even as these words are spoken, it is already so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you for that beautiful prayer. And if this is your first time joining us, Dee was referring to the virtual interactive component of this business networking group. We start out with inspiration from a presenter, and we all join together in a more interactive format. And we will give you that link in the comments below. If you have any comments, go ahead and ask the presenter or the group who's watching. We usually have 20 or 30 people tuning in from all over the globe. So I'll see you there, Dee.
Thanks. See you there.
Okay. BHS, you're probably wondering, what is it? Well, we used to meet in person. Can't do that right now, but it hasn't stopped our spirit of wanting to connect with one another. We're the longest running business networking group in Denver, and our mission is to empower business professionals to be successful through education, connection, and spiritual principles. So we hope you'll join us for this, and we hope that you'll get something from our speaker, Marta Spirk. She's up next, and she's going to teach us how to enter boss mode through the Enneagram. Isn't that interesting? Marta is a writer, a podcaster, and an empowerment coach. As you can see, she's also a mother. She helps women to move past perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and comparison, and into visibility, credibility, and profit. She does that with her 5-step process called Engage to Serve, her pod her the women's the Empowered Women's School membership and workshops. Please help me welcome your speaker today, Marta Spirk.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Anthony. Super excited to be sharing with your amazing community.
We're happy to have you. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we're looking forward to the Enneagram. I know that you gave us a link to take the Enneagram,
Yes.
and I'm going to go fetch that and
Okay.
throw it in the comments so that those people who are watching who haven't filled it out yet might be able to multitask while they listen to you. Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, completely.
All right, great. Well, I'll let you take it away, and we'll see you in 30 minutes when we all jump over to the Zoom call where we can ask you some more questions and get more in depth.
Sounds great.
Okay, bye.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Anthony, for the amazing introduction. Like he mentioned, my passion really is helping entrepreneurs, especially women, get to know themselves and become more self-aware, because I have found that in self-awareness, there is a great opportunity for growth, because there is the opportunity for self-acceptance. You can't truly love somebody you don't know, and why not start with yourself? And I have found in the Enneagram an amazing tool for just that. And I would love to have my slides. Thank you so much, Pete. Glad to be here. So here we go. Turning your weaknesses into your superpower. Oftentimes we believe that there's nothing we can do. We put ourselves in victim mode, that certain traits that we are born with or that we develop throughout time are just curses, and that we can't do anything about it. And today I am going to show you through the Enneagram that you are who you are for a reason. The world needs you the way that you are, but there is a way of reframing the way you see the world into a positive and into a healthier way. So we'll go ahead and talk about it. So I love starting with quotes. And if you hear my kids in the background, excuse me, I have triplets. That was one thing that Anthony forgot to mention. They're 5 years old, so you can imagine it's a pretty loud household. So I love starting with a quote. And this one really encompasses everything that we're going to be talking about and sets the tone. If you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. Perspective is everything in life. And the Enneagram can help you a lot in understanding your unique perspective, and also understanding people around you and their perspectives, and help you not take things as personally, and move on and navigate life in a lighter way. So the path to personal growth, which is the path to your business growth, really is that self-awareness that I just mentioned. And that self-awareness allows you to move into self-empowerment, because like I said, you can only celebrate and love something you truly understand and know. And that leads into transformation, but not into transforming into someone else, but into the more self-aware and self-accepting version of who you are. So in starting with this, the self-awareness will happen once you understand your strengths and weaknesses, once you understand your values, and the Enneagram really can give you that insight. So oftentimes we think values, work ethic, or your mission, right, in life is to help people, or whatever it is. And you will see that our values have everything to do with how we see the world. And they are not as generic as we usually think when we're coming up with our business plan or with the mission of our company and our business. And that's why I would love for anyone that is watching to be able to share with me, if you know your Enneagram type. I would love for you to pop that in the comments so that I know. Or if you're new to the Enneagram, I know Anthony shared the link, and that's you can go take the test right now or afterwards, and even rewatch this presentation, and you're going to get a lot of insight out of it. So let me explain the healthy and unhealthy perspective, and really how your weaknesses are your strengths. And the reason that is because your choice in how you use your personality traits will determine if you are living a healthy or an unhealthy lifestyle in terms of your attitude and outlook in life. And I will be going through each of the types, and then you will see exactly what I mean by that. And let me just give you an example to illustrate this. So for example, I am a type 3, which is the achiever or the overachiever. I pride myself in accomplishing more than many will probably accomplish in their own lifetime. And when people look at me, they feel, like they're inspired because I do so much. I'm a triplet mom. I'm an immigrant. I am originally from Brazil. I just earned my citizenship last year. I have accomplished so much in my life. But at the same time, there's a lot of emptiness in that because I tend to put my worth in what I accomplish. And so my goal in life is taking a step back and recognizing me for who I am and not for what I do. So every single personality type has the good and the bad. And it's all in how you use your tendencies and your values. Okay? So how do you choose to use what you've been given? So today I will explain to you and I will talk to you about the different types, and I will show you how most often and most likely you are choosing to use what you've been given in an unhealthy way. And the more you become aware of this, the easier it is for you to step into that healthy, positive side and really learn to work with yourself. Because as entrepreneurs and as many solopreneurs, we are the face of our business. We are our business. And the more we learn to work with ourselves and not against ourselves, the more things flow. And that's how this self-awareness can be so helpful. So because there are 9 types in the Enneagram, I like to group them in different groups so that it's easier to understand the main motivations of each type. And then you break it down because they're all very different, but they're all very interconnected. So if you haven't taken the test, I would love for you to identify yourself here. Which one do you think you identify with the most? So we'll start with the stances and the dependent stance, which is type 1, type 2, and type 6. And these types are dependent in the sense that they are oriented toward others. Their sense of self comes from outside. They're very community-minded and they seek reassurance. So these types tend to be thinkers. They tend to overanalyze things, and they're always looking for their worth in doing things for others. And we'll go into detail in each of the 3 types, in each of these groups afterwards. The withdrawing types, which are the 4, 5, and 6, or I'm sorry, the 9, they're oriented inward. So they're more of the intuitive type, right? Their sense of self comes from within. They meet their needs internally, and they have a private decision-making process, not like the dependent ones that tend to want to talk it out and to consider what others are thinking, which can be good and can also be bad, as I was just talking about. The 4s, the 5s, and the 9s, they're more introspective. And then you have the aggressive types, which I fall into this category, the 3, the 7s, and the 8s. They're oriented outward against others. So it's not that they're seeking for others necessarily for their opinions and for their to help with decision making. They are in defense mode. They are aggressive, but they're always almost like defending themselves. So you have, they have a strong sense of self, and they're assertive in naming their needs and desires. They're very vocal about their thoughts and about their needs, as opposed to the withdrawing ones. They're not very vocal about it because they make those decisions inside. And the dependent ones, they tend to be vocal, but they tend to internalize it a lot before they vocalize it. So let's look at the groups of each of the 3 groups that had 3 types. And I see some of you are sharing that they're a type 4. Awesome. So we'll get into more detail, and I would love to hear if you resonate, which one you resonate with if you haven't taken the test. So the type 1 is the improver, the reformer, the perfectionist. Their motto in life is, I must be perfect and do what's right. And you may have met people like this. You may have some of these in your life. And I actually tend to attract type 1s a lot. So if you've ever had someone that tends to be overcritical, that always finds something wrong, somebody to whom nothing is ever good enough, Have you ever met these types of people? We tend to get really resentful towards them, but what we fail to understand is that their inner critic is so strong that it spills over into other people's lives as well. So they criticize themselves first because they aim for perfection. And that's why they want perfection outside of themselves as well. And what's frustrating about this type is exactly that. They tend to be judgmental. They tend to look for the flaws, which for other types can be frustrating. But the thing here is we need these people. We need attention to detail. We need engineers. We need architects. Otherwise, things will fall apart. So you see how there's the good and the bad in both of them. And once you learn how to take a step back, once you learn, I'm sorry. Once you learn how to take a step back and actually be able to be more quiet and voicing your opinions and your criticism towards others, you are able to be more helpful and just be that listening ear. So with all of the types, what really matters in the goal is taking that step back and just being. Because by just being, you are touching others and you are changing lives by just being who you are. So the type 2 is the helper, the giver, the befriender. So with this type, they're always looking outside of themselves to land a helping hand. I must be helpful, caring, and needed. So while there's a lot of, it's a very honorable way of leading your life, there's also a lot of pride in there, because it's almost like for the 2s, nobody can do a better job than they can in helping somebody else. So they can't, again, sit back and not interfere in situations, which we need those helpers. We need those, those caring people in the world. But have you ever had someone in your life that just overstepped boundaries because they didn't know when they weren't needed anymore? And that's because their sense of self comes from helping these people. And they tend to put themselves last. And they tend to be so selfless to their own detriment. And again, most of us would think, well, being selfless is a great characteristic. Being selfish is not so good. But it's all about that balance and that middle ground, because for the ones that are extremely selfless, there is a pride in that. And again, there is an emptiness. So in finding the emptiness of each of the types in your own type, you will not only develop a lot more empathy for people, but for yourself. There's a lot of self-forgiveness when you encounter yourself and understand both sides. The type 6, the loyalist, the skeptic, the guardian. I must be secure and safe. So again, they are always looking for the worst case scenario. All of these types have this tendency, but the 6 have this more exacerbated because they're so afraid of things going wrong, they are stuck and they don't move forward. And when we think perfectionism in our business, I'm not going to do this because it has to be perfect. I'm not going to take messy action. These 3 types here are usually the ones stuck in their heads, looking outside to see if somebody else can help you make that decision, because they always look for the worst case scenario. Their attention to detail is so great. And again, this could be positive, but it could be negative if it's stopping yourself. Let's move on to the withdrawing stance. Oops, I will go to here and then I'll go back. Let's move on to the withdrawing stance. The individualist, the romantic, and artist, that's the type 4, which tends to be that the idea, the stereotype that we create in our heads of what an artist is, it's really what the type 4 embodies. I must be understood uniquely as I am, which again can be very conflicting because they're so expressive and they are so unique. It's almost like they want people to understand them, but they don't, because they thrive in their uniqueness. And for this type, it can be hard to have close relationships and to let their guards down because, again, they lived in this state of conflict. The type 5, the investigator, the observer, the theorist. I must be knowledgeable and equipped. There is a lot of commonalities with the type 5 and the type 1 and even the type 6, because again, they get stuck in wanting more details to be able to take action. They stop themselves because they like investigating. They pride themselves in learning, and then they don't take that action. And again, that makes a lot of sense with them being more withdrawn. And then the type 9, which has many similarities with type 2, the peacemaker, the mediator, the reconciler. I must maintain peace and calm. So for the 9, they are always afraid of rocking the boat, and they pride themselves in bringing the harmony in their environment. But there are times that there is no place for a mediator. There are times when you must voice your opinion and be heard, and it is not your responsibility to keep the peace, right? So that is the struggle for the type 9. I see lots of type 9s in the comments. And then let's go into the aggressive types, the achiever, the performer, the motivator, which is the type 3. I must be impressive and look accomplished and successful. And you see there's a lot of pressure in the type 3, like I was telling you, that's what I resonate with. There's a lot of pressure in this type because they're always looking for that validation. And it always, in their heads, seem to come from outside. So the goal here and the mission for the 3s is looking at themselves and accepting and validating themselves without the external. And the external is just a bonus, but they are action takers, right? So this is the difference you see. Some types tend to be more introspective. Some types tend to be more extroverted and action takers. And I would even say that for all of the aggressive types here, 3, 7, and 8, they tend to be more in the selfishness spectrum, where you would think that is so negative. But when you compare with the extreme of somebody being very selfless, it is not. It is that balance of, I understand my sense of self and I will assert myself, versus somebody that has a harder time doing that because they're always prioritizing everybody's needs. So while for the 3, their mission is understanding their worth and learning to listen to other people's needs, since it comes so easily for them to assert their needs. For the type 2, it is important for them to assert their needs, and for the types that are more withdrawn and dependent. Awesome, got another 9. Perfect. And so the type 7 is the enthusiast, the optimist, the Epicurean. I must be enjoying myself and avoiding pain. So this is the type of people that are the life of the party. Do you have friends that are just super fun? They're the ones that can't sit still. They're always looking into the next activity, the next thing that they can be doing. And we need those people in our lives. We need them to come and spice things up for us. But there is an emptiness in that they have a hard time sitting with their feelings. Whereas that is so much easier for the withdrawing types, right? And for some other people, it is not. And there is nothing wrong with you. You are built differently. This is how you see the world. And when you acknowledge that and you understand that there are so many other people in the world that think like you, that behave like you, that struggle like you, it is easier to step into and tap into the healthier stance of your own type, which is self-acceptance. I am this way, and now how can I leverage the way I am? This is really what I want you to focus on, is understanding who you are and how you show up in the world in your unique way, and then understanding how you can use that to your advantage. How can I use it to my advantage that I'm so outspoken, that I like motivating and encouraging people? Well, I am here talking to you right now. This is how I'm leveraging, is not being self-serving, but actually serving, which is a struggle for the 3s. Whereas if you're the type 9s, there's many type 9s here, and you tend to be the mediator, and you tend to find the harmony in situations, but there's also moments where you fail to assert yourself. So how can you leverage this gift that you have of being the mediator for yourself, right? And not use it against you. And finally, let me cover type 8, the challenger, the protector, the advocate. I must be strong and outside the control of others. So if you've ever met somebody that has no filter, that always says what's on their mind, that plays devil's advocate, regardless of the situation, they always want to prove you wrong or say the opposite, they're probably a type 8. And those people can get on our nerves, but we need those people, right? We need lawyers. We need attorneys. We need people to see all the angles of the story. And isn't it so empowering to see that there's a place for everyone, for all of us in this world, because we need all of these types working together in a space of self-acceptance and in a space of service, so that we can complement each other. And I always like to bring little stories here. So I'm a type 3 and my husband is a type 1. And for the longest time, I used to feel extremely offended when he would point out my mistakes, because to me, it meant that I was not as valuable if I made one mistake, because as a type 3, I must be impressive and look accomplished and successful. But in his head, which let me go back here to type 1, in his head, I must be perfect and do what is right. So if he sees a mistake, he feels that it's his personal responsibility to point out the mistakes. Do you feel like that? Or do you know someone that is like that? Don't take it personally. That's just how they see the world. And having that understanding has improved my marriage, has improved my relationship, not only with my husband, with other type 1s in my life, with clients, because I can understand where they're coming from. And I see, oh, okay, you're coming from that stance and I'm coming from this stance. How can we work together? So this is how you can improve your relationship with yourself first and foremost, and then your relationship with others. And another thing I will add here too, you may have had conversations with friends where something really offended you, and then you go and you call up that friend or you call up your mom and you tell them the story and they say, why are you so worked up about this? And then you get even more enraged and mad. They just don't see it how you see it. And this is why, because we see things differently. So here is my proposition for you to start reframing. So it's not that you're going to change who you are. It's not that you're going to become a different type. It's you are going to step into a healthier version of who you are. So if you are a type 1 that's always looking for what's wrong, when you catch yourself in that moment of, I can't keep my mouth shut because I have to tell that person that they're making a mistake, instead ask yourself, what happens if I right all these wrongs? Is it really my responsibility to make sure everything is perfect in the world? And when you ask yourself that question, you're going to automatically understand, it is not my position. It is not that big of a deal. And I can rest. And this goes for all of the types. Where can I meet a need for the type 2? You can ask yourself instead, why is it my duty to see all these needs met? You will understand your responsibility as the person that you are. And your responsibility first and foremost is to love and accept who you are. And everything will come into place, will fall into place after that. Because as you're more self-accepting, you're more accepting of others. You don't feel the need to point out the mistakes. You don't feel the need to help every time. You don't feel the need to accomplish so much. You just are. So for the 3s, what can I accomplish? Instead, the 3s can ask themselves, what actually gives me worth? And this is the question that I ask myself all the time. What gives me worth is just being who I am. And I love a quote that I read the other day. A flower doesn't achieve bloom. It just is. And just by being who that flower is, they bloom. And so this is something that even though it's the 3s struggle, I believe it's something that we can all agree on as entrepreneurs, as high achieving, that what gives you your worth is who you are and not what you do. And that's how you attract more clients. That's how you attract the people that are supposed to be in your life. For the 4s, they're always looking for what is lacking. What is lacking? A way to reframe that is, am I okay if people don't completely get me? And as you ask yourself that question, you will understand, yes, I can be okay because I get myself. I accept myself. I love myself unconditionally. And whoever needs to get me will get me. And that's okay. For the 5s, do I have enough? A question to reframe, am I okay if I'm unprepared? So when the 5s get stuck in analysis paralysis because they want to learn and consume more content, they can ask themselves, I can start. I don't have to know everything. I can just begin. I can learn a little bit from the 3s that are always on the move, and I can just take that step forward. For the 6s, what could go wrong? Instead, ask yourself, what will happen if I don't know what will happen? Life is unpredictable. You can't prepare for everything. And the 6s and the 5s can help each other out in that sense. You just have to move on and keep going, even if you can't fix everything, right? Even if you can't help everybody, even if you don't know what's going to happen, you can give yourself that rest, take a step back, and just do what needs to be done. For the 7s, what's next? Am I okay if this moment is just meh? So like I said, for the 7s, that's a tough place to be in. They don't like sitting in uncomfortable feelings, but we all have them. And it is important that we sit through them. The 7s can learn a lot from the 4s because the 4s, they understand the importance of sitting with their feelings and working through their emotions. The 8s, what is trying to control me? Who or what is trying to control me? Instead, ask, what if no one is trying to control me? Well, if no one is trying to control me, then I can let my guard down. then I can actually have relationships that are deep and meaningful instead of playing devil's advocate all of the time. And finally, for the 9s, does my presence matter? And there's lots of 9s here. Am I okay if there's unresolved tension? That's something for all of you to write the question that is for your type and put it front and center and create that anchor. Whenever you get triggered, whenever you feel offended, whenever you feel misunderstood and unworthy, remember the question that you could be asking yourself instead of your autopilot question, what is wrong? What can I meet a need? Is reassuring yourself that everything that you are is enough. And with every type, there is a tendency and something that stands out a little bit more. So a couple of little exercises I want to encourage you to do. Now that you are aware of who you are and how you behave and how you show up in the world, I want you to practice practice the habit of gratitude for yourself. And this is what I call the brag book. I'm sure you're very familiar with the concept of gratitude journal. And usually you're not in it. Gratitude journal is for being grateful for things, for people, for experiences. I want you to start a practice of being grateful for yourself. What are 5 things you're proud of having accomplished? What are 5 things you're proud of yourself for doing? And that is especially important in the sense of looking at your type and what comes hard for you. So for a type 1, something to brag is, I did not point out that mistake, right? I did not tell that person that they should be doing a better job. I actually praised them for what they were doing. Or even with themselves, I'm not going to allow my inner critic to rule over. I'm going to be proud of myself or whatever it is I'm doing, even if it's not perfect. So I want you to think of 5 things that don't come as easily for you and your type, and praise yourself through those things, right? So if you're a 2 and you're always helping, you're always meddling, when was a time that you were actually able to look at your own life and help yourself and be a little bit more selfish? That's something to be proud of for a type 2. And for a type 3, when was a time that I didn't put my worth in the things that I did? Or when was a time that I was actually able to recognize myself instead of looking for people to recognize me and to validate me? That's huge for a 3. And the same for the other types. So whatever is your struggle within your type, learn to recognize and praise yourself for when you're able to rise through it. And praise your strengths, right? Because your weaknesses are your strengths. And I hope that's become clearer. And that's something that I would love for you to share. And it can be something big or small, whether it be folding the laundry, putting the laundry away, or winning an award, or having a promotion, or whatever it is that you've accomplished in your life. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a big or a small accomplishment. It just knows the feeling. So take account of that. And finally, for our last question here, which is what we're going to be discussing in the breakout rooms, is I hope this became very clear that self-acceptance is the path to self-love. Self-acceptance or self-awareness is the path to self-acceptance and self-love. Self-awareness is the path for personal and therefore for your business growth, because you cannot hate yourself happy or successful. Have you tried? Because I have. I have tried beating myself up for being who I am, wishing I was somebody else, wishing I had that other business, wishing I had that other life. And then I understood I can never have any of those things. I can just have what I have and be grateful for who I am. So what I encourage you to do is, what is one weakness you can focus on to build more self-awareness and empower yourself? So one trait from your personality type that you always beat yourself over, that you always say, man, why do I have to be like this? Why can't I just be like so-and-so? Instead of thinking like that, find ways to empower yourself through it. And that's where the brag book's going to come in. Recognizing the times in your life when you were actually able to accept who you are and work through that in self-acceptance and in self-love. I want to be Tom Brady. Yes, we don't want to be anybody else but who we are. And this is how we can impact people, is when we step into who we are fully. And this is what I have for my presentation. I would love for you to connect with me. Anthony did an amazing job sharing some of my pictures and some of my resources. I have a podcast called the Empowered Woman Podcast, a group here on Facebook for women entrepreneurs. And you can reach me all across social media.
Thank you. for that presentation on the Enneagram. I got so many details that I didn't know before.
Oh, nice.
Well, we ran a little bit over, so I'm just gonna put this screen up, put this link up on our screen and post it in the comments and invite everybody to join us in the Zoom room. This section of our meeting is over. This is the more public section, and I invite everyone who attended here to join us in the small group workshop. I hear over and over again from our members that they enjoy the interactive component the most. In the Zoom room. This section of our meeting is over. This is the more public section. So I invite everyone who attended. If you're not able to click on the link, just go to zoom.us and type in the number 818-077-244-11. And I'll see you there. Our meeting is over. This is the more